Time to begin our meeting, Madison's Board of Zoning Appeals, April 14, 2025. Nicole, would you call the roll, please?
Scott Baldwin,
Here.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart,
Here.
Mark Costa, Carl Eaglin.
Board members, have you had a chance to look over minutes from last month's meeting? Are there any additions or corrections? None, I'll take a motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no. The minutes are approved. Moving on to renewals. We had this month six. I'll just briefly go over them. Mason and Medford Auto Sales, Eric Davis, 992 Saddle Tree Lane, Russell Linville, 1801 Allen Street, and Terry Jenkins, 705 Walnut Street, have all paid their renewal fees, and there are no complaints to my knowledge. Therefore, I move we renew these conditional use permits.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. They're renewed. For the record, number 2, 608 Mulberry Street, Camille 5, she's requested that one expire. And we have one, Darlissa Davis, conditional use permit for a preschool daycare facility, 431 Ivy Tech Drive. Nicole, has she paid that?
She has not, but we've been informed that that property has been sold.
So, for the record then, that conditional use permit is expired. We'll move on now. We have a number of tabled motions from last month, and how we'll do this. We'll ask a representative from each application to come up, explain. Board members will ask questions. We'll give an opportunity for you folk in the audience, if you wish, to say something. And that's pretty much the way it'll go. So, conditional use renewal number 1 on the agenda is BZVD-25-4, Tom Burchard, requesting a variance from development standards for setbacks to make a detached garage, 2-foot setback on west lot line, 822 West 3rd. And yes, sir, if you'd come up and give your name and address for the record and explain your situation.
Thomas Pritchard, 822 and a half West 3rd.
And you're requesting a variance, so what are you planning to do? And specifically, what's the hardship involved in doing this?
Well, we're in a tight spot, kind of like a lot of the homes downtown seem to be. We just bought the home back in January. We're requesting we're going to build a 2-car garage to the west side of our home. And the boundaries, we're looking at 20 by 20 foot size 2-car garage. And on the west side of our home, there's another resident that has another garage adjacent to, be right next to where we're going to build. And the distance from the fence line over to where the edge of the garage would be is approximately 2 feet, which I believe would be within the below your setbacks distance required. Right. So that's why I'm requesting variance to accommodate that.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Well, you've done a lot to the place already, Tom. I've seen it.
Oh.
By it a few times.
Yeah.
And I personally think this is just going to make the neighborhood
All right.
better.
Yeah, we're wanting to build a carriage style to, something to blend in with the community very well. So,
Yeah, looks nice.
thank you.
Good idea.
Board members, any other questions, comments? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Okay, sir. I do not see anybody, so board members, one last chance. You can have a seat, sir.
Okay, thank you.
This is a variance from developmental standards, so we have 3 criteria that we have to ask. And that's determined by state law. It's not Madison. So there are 3 things, and if we conclude, if all board members say, yeah, they're met, well, that's what it requires. Number 1, is this injurious to the public health, safety, morals, general welfare? Mr. Ferris?
No, I don't think it is. I think the applicant's just trying to improve the property. And the size of the garage they're asking to build is not that big of a building, but because of the space, they need some room.
Mrs. Burkhart?
No, and I think there's others in the area that are same size as that.
Mr. Eaglin?
Yes, I agree with the comments before. It's gonna kind of fit right in with that neighborhood.
I think Mrs. Burkhart answered it well. Number 2, this is hurting the use and value of adjacent properties and their value. Mr. Ferris?
No, I don't believe so. I think it's actually an improvement to the neighborhood.
Mrs. Burkhart?
I agree with that comment.
Mr. Eaglin?
I think it's also an improvement to the neighborhood.
And we certainly heard no testimony from a realtor or assessor. Said anything would be harmed, so I think that one's met. Number 3, practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mr. Ferris?
The practical difficulty is that those houses were built a long time ago, and they just are out of space and are asking for enough space to build a garage.
Mrs. Burkhart?
The practical difficulty is he wouldn't have enough room to build anything, so others in that area have built stuff, so I don't see a problem.
Mr. Eaglin?
Yes, I think it's very, very practical for that neighborhood. Like I said, there's no way that meets the setbacks just because of the neighborhood that it's in, so.
And this is the problem downtown. Lots were laid out long ago, and modern use, frequently, it won't fit. So I think this variance is met. Well, we've gone through our findings of fact. We'll take a motion.
I move we approve the variances requested.
Second.
We have a roll call.
Nancy Burkhart,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Scott Baldwin.
Yes. Well, sir, we wish you well. Next item on the agenda. BZVCU-25-5, Rodney Pettit, requesting a conditional use permit for Category 130 apartments, 1630 Washington Avenue, and that's zoned R8. And yes, sir, would you, representative, come up and give your name and address for the record, your plans, what's...
Yeah, my name's Rodney Pettit. That's address is 1630 Washington Avenue. We'd like to build a triplex unit there. Just want to get approval to do that.
I drove over there last month, and I don't know how you're gonna get it on that lot. I guess you will.
Yeah, it'll fit east and west and leave enough room off-street parking on the other half of the lot.
So you will have off-street parking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Board members, any other questions? It is just about the last vacant lot there. Appeared to be. Give you another chance, board members. Well, sir, would anybody in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Yes, sir, you can have a seat, Mr. Pettit.
Okay.
Yes, sir, if you'd come up. And give your name and address for the record, please.
It's Reverend Babli, 301 Green Road, Madison, Indiana. So as I said during the last meeting, my property is across the street. They are at a lower level than the property they are planning on developing, and being a triplex, there's going to be a lot of concrete there, and there's going to be water runoff, and there's no street sewage system as such, so that water is going to trickle down to the properties that I have across the street, and that's going to be a problem. And then the other question, of course, is addressed is kind of, they're planning on two, how many,
He said a triplex, 3.
triplex, but how many parking spots are they planning on building?
He said it would be off-street parking, so.
That doesn't, yeah, it's a small street, so that's, the problem is kind of
Oh, yeah.
how many parking spots?
Well, I'm sure, yes, sir, if you want to come up and address it.
Mr. Pettit, again.
The two questions, how the parking and the drainage.
Okay, yeah, the parking, we're going to have two parking spots per unit, and I believe there's room for that, and there's also room, it goes back in the woods a little bit, that's behind the building, so if we had to, we could add additional parking back here. As far as drainage, the property flows down the hill away from the street, so there's no drainage coming at the street at all.
No, not really, kind of, if you're going to look at the street levels, you're going to be bringing your driveway down towards the street.
That grade's all coming down below the street. We're digging that grade down.
So you're saying that drainage will be directed away
Yes.
from the street?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll ask staff, would that certainly be included in a building permit and all that?
So you're building it.
Where the drainage would go?
We don't regulate that through our office. This parcel is less than 1 acre. That's the only time that the city gets involved with stormwater drainage.
Well, Mr. Pettit, you've said that you're gonna channel the water
Yeah.
to the backside there where there is the natural drainage area
Yeah.
for that neighborhood.
Yeah, there'll be very little, minimal of any water coming at the street.
Okay.
The question is, kind of, so you're going to build the driveway lower than the street?
Like, it's gonna be probably level at the street level, and then as it goes back, it'll taper down.
So you're going to taper it back down or not towards the?
It won't flow towards the street. It'll be, back away from it.
So you're going, so the driveway is going to be.
Right now, there is a little bit of a hill. One side is lower, one side's higher. We're gonna
Yeah.
level that grade down to where it's all below the road or at the road level. And as you go back, where the building starts, it'll all flow down the hill for sure.
No, the
very-
building
very
is
low.
fine. So the question is, where your driveway is going to be, is that going to be graded towards the building, or is it going to be graded
Yeah,
towards
it'll be towards the building.
So it's going to grade back, everything is going to be graded back away from the street, is that right?
Yep.
Well, if that's the case, then that's okay with me.
Very good. Anybody else like to speak for or against? One last.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Someone out here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. If you could give your name and address for the record, please.
Jim Cunningham, 426 Moody Park. I just have one question, and I haven't looked at the situation, but if that's going to drain into like a common drainage system that goes out, is that extra drainage going to be able to be accommodated by that other system that it's flowing into? I'm not sure, I haven't seen it, I don't know what the capacities are, but like during the cloud burst or something like that, will it's fine that it's draining away from everything, but it's got to go somewhere. And when it goes into the public drainage system, be a culvert or whatever it is that culvert or system still adequate to sustain that kind of volume?
Well, I'll give staff a chance. And Mr. Pettit, if you would like to address that, you're certainly
It's a question.
welcome. Since you're an engineer.
Yeah, on that lot, all those properties just kind of flow back to like a little stream ravine area. It's nothing that I don't think is gonna affect anything.
Yeah,
there's no-
I was turning on our stormwater system, and there is a natural drainage ditch back behind the property, which is where he's directing the water.
And to your knowledge, has there ever been any effect on other people from that in bad rainstorms?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant slope down to that, so it's not gonna affect any houses.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak for or against? Board members, one last chance. This is a conditional use permit for a triplex, category 130. And we have a set, as dictated by Indiana, of 9 criteria that we have to agree to. The first one is this, in fact, the right conditional use. Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, I think it is.
Mrs. Burkhart.
Yeah, apartments are allowed with conditional use within R8.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, there are apartments existing in that neighborhood right now, so I
Yep.
think this will fit very well.
And I agree, 130 is the proper use. Is this in accordance with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan or the zoning ordinance? Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, I think it is. I think Madison seems to be in a deficit for housing, and this fits in with the comprehensive plan.
Mrs. Burkhart.
Yes, Carl stated the neighborhood already has a mixture of multifamily and single family.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, and we do need the housing, so, and some new construction through there, just gonna, I think, help the neighborhood.
And I think this one is met as well. This is, number 3, is it going to change the character of the general area? Is it going to fit in? Is it well designed? Mr. Ferris.
I think it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree, I don't think it'll change the character.
Mr. Eaglin.
I think it's an improvement.
And I would tend to agree that it's not going to hurt the general character, and it will fit in with what that area already is. I think that one's met. Number 4, hazardous, disturbing to neighboring uses. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't see any reason to believe that it will be.
Mrs. Burkhart.
No, I don't see a problem with that one.
Mr. Eaglin.
I don't see a problem with it, and the items that the neighbor brought up, I think Mr. Pettit handled those very well with his explanation on the drainage.
I think Mr. Eaglin put it very well. I think that one's met. Number 5, this is adequate sewer, water, power, so forth. Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the property slopes towards natural drainage. And, you know, the applicant has already addressed the rise and fall at the front of the property, so I don't see any issues there.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree with that comment.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, I don't see any problems.
I don't even think this is an issue. I think that one's well met. Number 6, this is about additional requirements, detrimental economic welfare. Mr. Ferris.
No, I think it will be an improvement to the economic welfare of the community.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree, I don't see a problem with that one.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, it's an improvement to the neighborhood.
And that one is certainly not going to harm anything by making more housing. Number 7, this is about excess traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odors. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't see any reason to believe that there's gonna be any excess of any of those things.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree, I don't see anything in excess.
Mr. Eaglin.
All right, I don't see any excess.
I don't think that's much of an issue either. I think it's met. Number 8, this is about vehicle approaches to the property, so it's not going to interfere with traffic. Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a narrow road, but, you know, adding these apartments, I don't think is gonna be a hindrance to, the flow of traffic.
Mrs. Burkhart,
I agree with that comment.
Mr. Eaglin,
Yeah, there's several ins and outs in that neighborhood, and adding 6 more cars to it, I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
and I agree, I don't think this is an issue. And number 9, this is about loss of scenic or historic features. For the sake of time, does anybody have any objections to that one?
No.
Well, we've gone through our findings of fact. For I move that we approve BZCU-25-5 for a period of 10 years. And the reason I say 10 years is because it's a residence that's going to be there.
Okay.
That's my motion.
I'll second your motion.
And a roll call, please.
Scott Baldwin.
Yes.
Carl Eaglin.
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart.
Yes,
Well, sir, we wish you well. Next item on the agenda, a tabled motion was, here we go, 2 applications from get my pile of papers here. Here we go. Yeah. 2 applications. A variance for lot sizes and a conditional use permit. We will obviously do the variance first. Okay, there we go. It is BZVD-25-5, 2156 North K Road, Angela Kaler, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Requesting, it's a half-acre lot, this is zoned residential agriculture, which requires 1-acre lots, but this is a half-acre lot. And the purpose is to put a rental property there. So we have someone here to address this. If you give your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Angela Kaler, 2156 North K Road, Madison, Indiana.
And I kind of stated, but is that correct? Your ultimate goal is to put a rental, a short-term rental,
Short-term rental, correct.
like an Airbnb?
Mhm.
And your problem is, that's a,
I bought the property and it was .66 acres instead of the 1 acre.
and that puts you in a bind because to use it, it's a non-conforming property and you got to get a variance.
Correct.
Board members, do you have any comments, questions?
What is your total road frontage there, do you know?
Oh, I do not remember.
It's okay.
Relatively good size.
Her lot is 100 feet wide.
It's okay.
Thank
So it
you.
meets that, okay.
And in your view, Nicole, in your view, to do this properly, she doesn't also need a variance about frontage width?
Yes, her variance request is for both lot width, less than 150 acres, or 150 feet, and then lot size smaller than 1 acre.
Board members, any other questions, comments?
And are there any structures on the lot currently?
There is a pole barn in addition to the home.
Any other questions, board members? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Oh, ma'am, I guess one last chance, board members. I guess you can have a seat.
Thank you.
Well, this begins as a variance of use, or excuse me, a variance from developmental standards. And we have, of course, the 3 criteria. So On the variance, number one, will this injure the public health, safety, morals? Mr. Ferris?
No, I don't think it will.
Mrs. Burkhart?
No, I see no problem with that.
Mr. Eaglin?
I agree.
And I see no issue there. We've certainly heard no testimony to that effect. Will this affect the, number two, does this affect adversely the adjacent property's value? Mr. Ferris?
No, I don't think it will.
Mrs. Burkhart?
No, the structure's already there.
Mr. Eaglin?
Yeah, I don't see any change.
And we certainly heard no testimony to the effect that anybody would be harmed, so I think that one's met. And number three, the big one, always in a variance, what are the practical difficulties? Mr. Ferris?
Well, the practical difficulty is the current zoning standard that requires a 1 acre lot.
Mrs. Burkhart?
Right, she purchased it and it was .66 and it was already there, so I don't see a problem with it being there.
Mr. Eaglin?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with them. You can't invent property, so.
And she purchased the property, which was previously small. It was not her doing. It was in existence prior to her acquiring it. Well, I think that one's met. We will take a motion to approve the variance.
I'll make a motion, we approve the variance, number BZVD-25-5.
Second.
And can we have a roll call?
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart.
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
Scott Baldwin.
Yes. Now, having approved the variance, she is requesting a conditional use permit to use it as an Airbnb. And I think you've already answered. Board members, do you have any other questions for her pertaining to the conditional use?
Do we have a copy of the house rules?
They should have been included in your packet, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Let's see these rules. That's always a big issue because of neighbors. I believe you did do them there. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. And of course, the main ones are quiet hours. And let's see, you have quiet hours on here. If you could come back up and explain, save a little time from hunting for them. What are your quiet hours?
10 p.m. to 8 a.m.
And do you have any rules about outdoor fires or cooking or, here you go, fire pit, fires allowed in designated fire pit area, grill?
What's your maximum number of people?
2.
2 people
Oh.
maximum?
And your
No
public-
pets allowed either.
Are you gonna have a property manager, or are they just gonna contact you if there's a problem, or?
They would contact me, plus I've created an agreement with actually one of the neighbors that if there is an issue, that he can contact me directly also, and then he can go over there and handle anything.
That's good.
Your published quiet hours here say,
I stapled it right there, huh? Exactly.
probably 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Oh, I apologize. I did change it to 8 a.m.
Okay. And pets are allowed only with prior approval.
It shouldn't say prior approval.
That's what
I
it says.
apologize. Oh, sorry.
So you're gonna change that to no pets,
Correct.
okay?
I don't want to have to clean up after any pets.
Good idea.
Don't blame you. 8 AM. Okay, any other questions, board members?
Would they be using the pole barn or just the parking that's there on the driveway when they come in?
The pole barn is just for our storage
use storage,
purposes,
okay.
but there's parking in front and to the side of the house.
Any other questions? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this proposed conditional use? Well, you can have a seat, ma'am.
Thank
I've read through these a couple times already. So, and given the fact this does not seem to be controversial and that she's actually worked out an agreement with a neighbor, I'm going to go down the list, 1 through 9, and ask if anybody has any objections. With your permission, board members?
Yes.
Okay. Number 1, any objections?
No.
Number 2?
Nope.
Number 3?
Nope.
No.
Number 4?
No.
No.
Number 5?
Nope.
Number 6?
Nope.
Number 7?
Nope.
Nope.
I will make a comment. She's agreed quiet hours of 10 to 8 a.m. for the record, and no pets for the record, so I think that one's met. Number 8?
Nope.
And number 9?
No. Could we state that in the motion about the change in?
Yes. I move we approve this conditional use with the changes that were brought out in this meeting. Quiet hours 10 to 8 a.m., 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., and no pets. And I move for a period of 1 year. That's my motion.
Second.
I think we have a roll call.
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin.
Yes.
And Angela, I'll need your certified receipts and green cards if you have them. You can bring them to the office.
Well, that concludes the tabled applications from last month's meeting. Now, we can move on to the new applications. And the first one on the agenda, BZBD-25-6, David and Janine Wise, variance from development standards for setbacks 2 feet on east and west lot lines, 1014, 1016 West First. Yes, sir, if you could come back up again. I know you were at the last meeting. And your,
David Wise, 1014 West First Street.
and your problem is, even if they do combine the lots, you still have such a narrow lot, you can't meet 3-foot setbacks. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, the existing foundation is a very historic foundation. It's late 1830s. And it's got a 16-foot wide structure house on it now, very nice house. And what we would like to do is build a carriage house, which, and really it's only going to be wide enough for 1 car, not 2, but 1 car. And then we'd like to put the existing house there now is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house. And what we'd like to do is build this carriage house with a garage, and then over top of it, build a 2nd bedroom and utility room and everything like that. So, and the existing foundation was set on a 20-foot wide lot, 16-foot wide, so 2 foot, 2 foot. And then to kind of get this one in here, this would match it, and structure-wise, I plan to match it and, make it look like what's there now, which we like what's there now.
So essentially, you're gonna build a new building on the old footprint.
Yes, well, not the old footprint. There was an old structure there at one time, just a little bitty, and it's since been torn down prior to us acquiring the property. We've owned it for about a year and a half now. So our house is on, which it's there now existing, is on the old foundation, 16-foot wide foundation. And so the new addition would have a 16-foot wide foundation.
So you're in the black colored house currently?
Yes,
And that one was on the original 16-foot wide foundation,
correct.
and the new one,
And this is an addition to that house with a breezeway. And so I think the setback is only requested for one side since we
Right.
combined the lots.
so on the west side, you're requesting a 2-foot setback
Correct.
still.
That is correct.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
The building the carriage house that you're wanting to build, will that have access off the alley?
No, it doesn't.
So everything has
It's-
to come in through the
It has
front.
access from the front. And believe it or not, it's already got a curb cut.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, and, we do plan to get a carriage style door and everything for it. So, but it's on First Street is the
I see,
access.
yeah.
Any other questions, board members? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Well, one last chance, board members. Okay, sir, have a seat.
Thank you.
This is a variance from developmental standards requesting a variance of 2 feet off of the west lot line. And we have our 3 criterion. Board members, we've gone through reading this 3 times. We run into this issue so often downtown that it was laid out in the 19th century, and it's almost impossible for many people to meet the 3-foot setback. And so it's almost, in my view, for want of a better word, it's almost routine. So with your permission, board members, I'll just go through the 3 and ask if anybody has any objections.
Sure.
The first one, injurious to the public health, safety, etc.
No,
The second one, adversely hurting property values.
no,
Oh,
And the third one, practical difficulties.
no.
no.
And I would note for the record, at least in my view, the practical difficulty is the size of the lot. We've gone through our findings of fact. I move that we approve BZVD-25-6 for 2-foot setback.
Second,
And can we have a roll call?
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
yes.
Nancy Burkhart.
Yes.
Carl Eaglin.
Yes.
We wish you well, sir. Next item on the agenda is let's get the pile of paper correct here. BZVCU-25-5, Kimberly Taylor, Jefferson County Transition Services, at 515 East Second Street, conditional use permit to house a maximum of 10 residents, 9 transitional service residents, 1 manager. And if you could come up, ma'am. And if you could give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Brandy Adkins. The address is 309 St. Michael's Avenue, Madison. Kim is my board president, and she's currently stuck in Lawrenceburg in traffic. So she asked me to come.
Our sympathies. I understand this was first approved I believe, in April of 2020.
That's correct.
And I was at that meeting, and I remember there was, at least one of the neighbors was concerned that there would be boyfriends out on the sidewalk
Right.
yelling and hollering and drunk and high, and it would just be a terrible thing. And we've had 5 years' experience, and to my knowledge, there's never been a single complaint. In fact, I've been by it many times, and you wouldn't even know there's anything there.
That's
At
the
least
way
in
we
my
want it
view.
to be.
And I also understand from your application, the only reason you're here is because you've changed the ownership
The ownership
arrangement.
from Kim and Steve Taylor ownership to Jefferson County Transitional Services, and that was back in 2022.
And of course, when ownership changes, you gotta renew the conditional use. So, board members, at least in my view, this is just almost a renewal, a formality almost. Do any of you have any comments, questions? Would anybody in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Well, in that case, ma'am, you can have a seat.
Okay.
And this is, once again, requesting a conditional use permit. And once again, board members, in light of the fact that 5 years ago, this was given a thorough public hearing. There's 5 years of experience with it with no problems. Nothing is changing in its operation. It's a formality of ownership. So with your permission, board members, I think in this case, we could just dispense with going through the 9 findings of fact and move on to a motion.
I agree.
And I suppose for the record, it would be better if I move that we suspend the rules for this application and move to a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor of suspending the rules on this application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Therefore, I move that we approve this conditional use permit for a period of 3 years.
I'll second your motion.
And could we have a roll call?
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
Nancy Burkhardt.
Yes.
And the reason I said 3 years is because there's a history of compliance with all the various laws. Well, thank you very much. We wish you well, ma'am. Keep up your good work. Let's see, moving on here. Next item on the agenda. BZVU-25-3, Sandra Smith, requesting a variance of use for category 651 to allow for a health and wellness spa at 2024 Clifty Drive. That is zone medium density residential R8. And yes, sir, if you could give your name and address. for the
Scott
record.
Lynch, 1800 Valley Vista Court, Madison.
And you're requesting a variance of use, which I only speak for myself. As a board member, that's a big deal. So I need you to explain in detail just what this involves, a health and wellness spa. Just what is
Okay.
the nature of it? Or is it a medical thing that's gonna be referred to with doctors and nurses and have them on site? Just, or is it more like what we think of as a spa, where you go and get a mani-pedi and do some yoga and?
Yeah, no, I think I can help you there. So Mrs. Smith is a nurse practitioner, and she's currently been in business for the last 15 years. And she has a business now on Madison's Hilltop. It's located in a strip center. Her health and wellness spa center deals with primary care services, because she is a physician assistant. So she can do a lot of the things that a doctor can do. Hormone therapy. They do have skincare services. She has a laser machine. And they do massage therapy. And she's also does some mental health services. So that's kind of the gamut of her professional business. She's looking for a facility that has more charm and character, something that is not unusual. You'll see these kind of businesses in Zionsville or many communities, Carmel, where they go into homes. And so she's just looking for an elevated experience for her clients. And so this property kind of fit that bill. And so that's our reason for asking for the variance.
So
Does that help?
Yes.
Answer your question?
You see, category 651, that derives from this book here,
Okay.
Standard Land Use Coding Manual. It was by the Department of Housing and Urban Development in 1965. And it is the basis of Section 7 of our current zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And when you look through it, category 651, physician services, there are subcategories: dental, hospital, medical labs, dental labs, sanitariums. So it's clearly medical.
Yeah.
And of
Similar,
course-
I mean, there's a physician that's just down the street, just a little bit on the other side, Dr. Britt. You've got the state park on the other side there. That's,
There's a chiropractor out past Clifty entrance on the
yeah,
right.
so it's kind of, anyway, that's the,
Well, I understand your predicament. It's kind of dicey, but
yeah.
a variance of use is when this board, which we're just a quasi judicial board, we're being asked to make a big amendment to the zoning ordinance.
And it would-
So we better have a very good reason.
And I guess it would be, for her, as long as she owned and operated this business, so it wouldn't be, somebody else came along, I assume you'd have to reapprove or
Well, normally when you give a variance, it goes with the property.
goes with the property line.
But
so.
we are also permitted under the rules to put reasonable conditions. So I'm going to ask staff if you think that were a motion made to approve this variance of use, it could include the condition as long as this lady operates it.
I would make the recommendation, if you're gonna put that condition on it, that you make the name in the business rather than the individual entity. Cause we've run into that issue with a couple conditional use permits where that person sold the business, it didn't move, but they moved on. So I wouldn't want to see that happen in this case.
Good point. And right quick, if you remind me of the name of the business?
Madison Health and Wellness Center.
Is that the name of her business now?
Yeah, yes.
Will this be her home or just her business?
Just at this point, just her business. She has a home.
Okay.
So
There's
They
plenty
have
of,
two
there's plenty of parking in that.
Yes, when you
Pro-
get
yeah.
back there, there's a canopy right now that's up where, Mr. Kaler, he had a
Mhm.
motor home, and that'll come down. And so it allows for pretty generous parking. She only has 2 employees.
Right.
And she's by appointment only.
And there's no highway problems there as far as a real steep hill to get out. I mean, exiting the property should be very safe. You can see
Well,
both
she doesn't-
ways.
They never have more than 3 to 4
Okay.
clients, there at a time, so.
Right, and the homeowner probably had more cars before that when he was
Jay
living there.
Jay probably did.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Jay probably.
Of various kinds, yeah.
so.
But it's, Sandy's a nurse practitioner, correct? She's
Yes,
not a
uh-huh.
PA. Yeah, because I think
So
I worked with her at the state hospital
Oh,
when
okay.
she was nurse practitioner there.
Any other questions, comments, board members? So I presume that since it's by appointment only, she'll schedule somebody to come in for a service, and she will be the provider.
Yes.
And like you said, she's an LPN, correct?
No, she's a nurse
She's a
practitioner.
Nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's one cut below a doctor.
Do you happen to know her hours of operation?
Right now, I think she's, basically a 9 to 5 by appointment, and so if she doesn't have a lot of appointments that day, then I don't know that it's not a walk-in
Yeah,
business,
but she's not scheduling appointments at 9 o'clock at night or,
not to my knowledge. And of course, there's no noise to what she does or anything. It's not like we're asking for a variance for a used car lot or a vape shop
Sure.
or something.
Will there be any kind of signage up there, Scott, or just a small
Yeah,
sign or something?
Yeah, just, whatever they allow.
Okay. I think it's 2 by 2 or something like that.
Any other questions, board members? Yeah, we give you a little time to think. Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this? Yes, ma'am. You can have us, come on up to the podium, ma'am, please. And if you give your name and address for the record.
I'm Barbara Tom Perry, 2032 Clifty Drive, Madison, right next door to this home. And the thing I want to say is, it's very dangerous coming out of that side of the road because it's down a hill and on a curve. That's all I really want to say, because I have to do that every single day, and I know it's hazardous. So, as long as that's taken into consideration for her patients, what I say.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak for or against this application? And there may be some issues here with Madison's comprehensive plan. Someone from staff like to address that?
Staff does not have any issues with the application. We feel like it is in conformance with the comprehensive plan and our long-term planning strategy for housing and amenities within housing. I will just note too that there are some issues with our current zoning ordinance where in the text of the R8 medium density residential section, it lists other health services as a conditional use, but it is not listed as a conditional use on the schedule of use table, which is why staff recommended that the applicant apply for a variance of use.
And I noticed that too, that the one section which defines the general uses calls 699 or 651, 699 healthcare, and section 7 does not. The standard land use coding manual from which it's derived puts 699 in the context of religious and welfare and charitable services, which is nothing like this. 651 is in the context of medical uses, and testimony has indicated that the lady that runs this is a, what do you call it, a practical
Nurse practitioner.
nurse practitioner, which I know is almost a doctor. So, in my view, 651 is certainly way more applicable. Would anybody else like to speak to the issue of Madison's comprehensive plan? Board members, do you have any other questions or comments? Well, seeing none, hearing none, we will move on to our findings of fact. There we go. Variance of use. And since this is a variance of use, board members, I'm going to ask you to give an explanation of your reasoning for the record, because I think variances of use is a big deal. There are 5 criteria, once again, as established by the state of Indiana, and we'll go through them one at a time. Number 1, approval is not injurious to public health, safety, morals. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't believe it will be injurious. I think this is a service that our community probably needs, and I see no issues with that.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree with Mr. Ferris's statement. I know she does mental health services, which I think is needed, along with other cosmetic surgery services that people request.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yeah, I agree with the other 2 board members' comments.
Injurious to the public health, safety, morals, general welfare, no. I see no problems there. Number 2, this is about the use and value of adjacent properties will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the applicant is going to use the existing house as her office, and I don't think the nature of her business will affect the character of the neighborhood or adjacent properties.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree. I think that there's be less noise and less traffic as if a normal family lived there.
Mr. Eaglin.
I agree. And like I said, the hours are good for the neighborhood, so shouldn't be a problem.
We certainly heard no testimony from a recognized authority against that there would be harm, so I think that one's met. Number 3, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property, a big one. What is the peculiarity? Mr. Ferris.
Well, I think the thing that is the difficulty is the zoning. I do think that category 651 is an approved use for that location.
Mrs. Burkhart.
Yeah, I agree with his comment.
Mr. Eaglin.
I agree.
Peculiar condition of the property. It's in, apparently there are some considerations of, to be, how do I say this? The comprehensive plan of Madison seems to be in favor of this, which is a important aspect. The peculiarity is that at the moment it's not zoned for something that perhaps it could be or should have been. Of course, coulda, woulda, shoulda, that's not a strong argument, but I think on balance, in my mind, that one's met. And number 4, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. Mr. Ferris.
I just don't see any issues with what the applicant is trying to do here. I don't think it affects any of those things.
Mrs. Burkhart,
Yeah, she wouldn't be allowed to have a business there, but I don't see a problem with it, no.
Mr. Eaglin,
No, I think this type of business is not gonna cause any problems in the neighborhood.
the zoning ordinance allows home businesses with certain restrictions. This is in a sense a home business. It's going to be operated by a medical professional. And the city interpretation of the comprehensive plan has no objection. So I think this one is met. Number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. Mr. Ferris.
I just don't see any interference at all. I think it's just one of those issues where the zoning definitions aren't completely clear, and my interpretation is that this fits in that zoning category.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree, I think it fits in with the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, I think it fits in quite well with the comprehensive plan.
According to testimony from staff, it does. Well, we have gone through our findings of fact. Everyone is in agreement. I move that we approve BZVU-25-3 with the following condition. The business will be operated by appointment only, and the variance will last as long as the current company, which is Madison Health and Wellness exists. That's my motion.
Second.
We have a roll call.
Yeah.
Hang on, you got Sir?
Normally, sir, well, this is your government. If you want to say something, come on up. We do have a motion on the floor that has been seconded.
My name is Mark Tom Perry. I live next door to the property. That property and my property share a driveway. And with the increased use of that driveway because of more and more cars going through there, I would like it to be that they are acknowledged that they will help in the maintenance of that driveway. And the second thing I wanted to say is a sign. If they're going to put a sign up in the front, that the sign is far enough back off the road so that when we go to come in and out of the driveway, that we can see both directions.
Very dangerous.
And that's what I wanted to say.
So, sign location is dictated by the sign ordinance, correct? And so that should take into account visibility.
Yes, it would.
And as far as shared maintenance of the driveway,
That should be covered in whatever deed or easement agreement the homeowners have. I don't think that's the jurisdiction of this board or the city.
was my feeling too, that this board doesn't have the authority to dictate an agreement on maintenance of a driveway, or because, well, you live in the house that's to would be the northwest? Okay, right back in there, yeah. That would, like Nicole says, I think that's an issue that's in your deed, and you'd probably have to talk to a lawyer unless it's clear enough in your deed.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. We have a motion and a second. We have a roll
Remind me
call?
who seconded Nancy? Okay, that's who I thought. Okay, Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Barris.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda. Yeah, I keep losing my papers. BZVD-25-7. Jeff Minders, Rikers Ridge Sewer District, on behalf of Triple D Properties, requesting a variance of development standards for property size less than an acre in order to operate a pump station for Rikers Ridge Sewer System. Is there someone here to address this? Yes, sir. If you give your name and address for the record, please.
Jeff Minders. I represent Telegraph Hill Rikers Ridge Sewer District, and their office is in Brenda's Tax and Accounting here in town. I can't give you that address off. 319 3rd Street,
That's fine.
Madison.
And your issue is, I drove up there today, and that area is becoming almost like a subdivision. There are houses all over. And now you have to provide sewer for those houses, and you gotta put a pump station to handle the volume? Is that what your issue is?
Sewer is a situation that most people don't want to deal with, but it's a necessity. And if I understand the county history, the state of Indiana said to Jefferson County, you'll build this sewer system or to take care of the development and the failing septics, or we're going to fine the county $25,000 a day. So then that's how the Telegraph Hill Sewer was born, I understand, some years ago. And with sewer and water in a rural area, growth comes. And they've had a lot of growth, and that sewer system's 20 to 25 years old. We're the operator. We do the maintenance, leaks, fix broken pumps, panels. We're the sewer system's contractor employee, you might say. Gary is here as the board chairman, Gary Moss. And so when they brought us on board a few years ago, we said, you need to spend some money on the sewer system, it's failing. Sewer gas from a pressure sewer is very corrosive or degrading to about really anything other than a good plastic. And so they need to build a new sewer lift station to move that sewer on down the way to come to the city of Madison. The current sewer lift station is in the road right away, and to replace it in that same location would be very difficult. So we want to get it back off the road so we have more space to properly maintain it. That's why we've asked to go back the drive, the panhandle, and set it in behind that of the property, is so that there's some space. We're up and down the road hydraulically. From Midwestern Engineers study, there's kind of a limited space from old 62 down through there that it needs to go from their hydraulic analysis, and kind of in the general area where it's at is where it needs to go. And not many people are accepting of that, and we did find a property that was willing to sell to us, to the sewer district, Triple D Properties, and we have a purchase agreement in place. If the zoning is passed, and they are trying to get loans and grants to upgrade other major parts of the system. And this lift station is one key component. So if we don't upgrade the station, there's going to be some point that there won't be enough capacity to take more customers. That's probably right to the point, and or to keep the sewer moving so it doesn't spill out on the ground.
So you're saying there's very good engineering reasons why the lift station has to be on that spot?
Close proximity, but we really, with talking to neighboring property owners, we didn't find anybody that was accepting. We got a lot of no's. And Triple D said, yeah, they would sell, and hydraulically it will fit in the engineering plan. And there's power there. We'll build power back the roadway. We're going to screen it with trees around the property, chain link fence. We're going to have odor control for the wastewater. Currently, they don't have that for the station that sits along it's actually in the road right away. And to rebuild it in that road right away would be really expensive. It's going to cost money to build it back off the road, but long term, we'll be able to maintain it better, more efficiently and properly. So we're going to have a chain link fence with shrubbery around the outside for screening that's been agreed to with the selling property owner, and odor control system that will go along with the necessary pumping facility.
That's a big issue, I understand. People are afraid of the stink.
Yeah.
Your design, well, how much of a problem will that be?
For
the odor?
I don't think it'll be any more than they currently have, and we don't currently have any odor control facilities with the existing station that sits along Crossroad there.
For the sake of the neighbors, how does an odor control system work? I mean, what's the basis of it?
Generally, it's a bioxide system is one that's commonly used, and it's a slow drip system that just puts a few drops per hour, minute, depending on the size, the capacity. I'm not the engineer, but it's sized appropriately for the lift station. The lift station comes on and goes off anywhere from 1 to 20 times a day, maybe. And while it's not running, that odor control, be a tank of chemical of some type, set there near the station, and it is a slow drip into the concrete structure that keeps the odor down, the hydrogen sulfide gas smell down.
So how visible will this structure be? Will it be hidden behind trees, or so it's substantially not visible to the neighbors?
Below ground. The sewer lift station is below ground and may extend above the grade 6 inches to a foot to allow for drainage to push the surface water away, that the surface water doesn't run into the lift station. And then, like we said earlier, we'll put chain link fence around it. We're going to put 2 rows of evergreens staggered as a screen to look pleasant to the neighbors.
So the only portion of the structure, if it were not hidden, would be like so much sticking above the ground. Huh?
That's correct.
Are there vent pipes or something that allow ventilation of fumes and whatnot to come out under any circumstance?
Yes, there has to be. You have to have a vent to the surface that when the station fills with sewage, the air is pushed out through the vent, and then when the pumps come on, it has to be vented to allow air to go back in for the pumps to operate properly and the fluid to leave the system, so you don't create a vacuum.
And how do you control odor on when the fumes are rising out of the vent pipe? How do you not have odors and sewer gas going around the neighborhood in that situation?
That's where the chemical feed system is fed into the lift station slowly to prevent that expelling of gas. It's 24 hours a day. It'll be fed in. When we spoke there earlier about what would be above grade, there would have to be some type of a tank that would hold the chemical. It'll be above ground. Generally, those are 6 to 8 feet tall, 6 to 8 feet in diameter, where the chemical is brought in bulk.
Shaped like that?
Cylinder, yes. So the current system has nothing. So if you're, you know, it's there along the road in the right of way, and we're trying to upgrade that drastically. Get it, it's in the road right of way. The sewer district does not own the property. So, you know, the engineers have looked at what's the cost of just replacing it in its exact location. And we need to go a little deeper in the ground. And when you're, that current station's probably 6 feet from the pavement, maybe 8 feet from the pavement, and then we need to go in the ground 12 to maybe 16 feet deep and keep the sewage flowing at the same time. Putting it in a new station in that road right away is not very practical. I mean, anything can be done with a cost, and that's, if we try and go back in that same location, it's just going to add a lot of cost to the job. It's setting along the road where safety of the workers, when they go there to maintain it, it's not very safe because we don't have a driveway to pull off into. We're putting this drive in back to the property where we can get to the lift station to maintain it adequately. So we're not.
How far off the main road will that station be?
I don't have a dimension off the top of my head, but I'm saying like 300 feet.
300 feet.
It's,
And you're saying this one that you're using now is within 20 feet of the roadway?
probably 6 to 8.
6 to 8 feet.
Yeah, probably six to 8 feet from the edge of the pavement.
Has there been any complaints with neighbors with the existing station?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, oh, yeah, okay, we got that back here. Okay.
You'll get your turn, sir.
No, I'm just saying yes.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's Mr. Fagan, probably.
It is Mr. Fagan.
Okay.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
So what's the lifespan of this new system?
The current one's 25 years old. I can't remember what phase, whether it was the like 95 phase or 92 phase. 92?
This is phase 2, so it's probably 95.
Okay.
Okay.
From the plans, history, haven't been with this thing but 3 years. It's hard to remember all the details, but to answer your question, I would think with what people have learned about pressure sewer systems and hydrogen sulfide gas and how corrosive it is in the last 15, 20 years, I would think we would get 40 years, I would think. If we use high-quality plastic, stainless steel piping and valves and fittings and,
How far, just by the way the crow flies, will this be from an existing home?
the closest home, there's a house just in front of it, like probably 200 feet,
200 feet.
100, let's say 150. Probably 150 feet is better.
Okay.
Probably closer. That's to the north.
Yeah, but with the odor reduction system that you're putting in, the old station does not have that or anything at all on
The
your
odor-
bidding system.
The odor control?
Right.
Yeah, the old station has
Nothing.
power, fiberglass can in the ground, an aluminum hatch,
Okay.
some valves. It's pretty bare bones, basic. And it has there's no odor control.
Okay,
Uh,
yes, I mean.
that's
but
one
the-
of Mr.
But the new
Fagan's-
system will have.
That's one of Mr. Fagan's complaints, and,
Sure.
We've tried to do the best we can to patch this thing together and keep it functioning every day, so it,
But the old station, if this is approved, will be abandoned, and then, I guess that land then will be reclaimed, some usable, back to a field or whatever.
grass,
To back
you know,
grass, yeah.
it'll be
anything.
cut off below grade,
Yeah.
typically 1 to 3 feet,
Okay.
fill it in with sand, and put topsoil over it.
Okay.
The power pole and all that'll come down.
Okay.
All cities,
Please?
what power is been from that
Okay, so it will stay. But anything to do with the sewer system will be abandoned and the valving eliminated to minimize future leakage. We would change out the piping to eliminate all the valves, fittings, and T's underground.
It'll just be a straight shot.
Straight pipe through.
Okay.
But if it doesn't get approved, I mean, where would you even put anything? Or would you just be stuck with the old one? Are you kind of just set on this?
Stuck with the old one or try and find somebody else that would sell a half acre of land to.
But do you need to stay close to that area?
Yes.
Because of-
Hydraulically, the engineers have
Right.
ran their models and they've been out and went to every home with a grinder tank, any type of connection to their sewer system. They've identified, put it all in their computer and ran their hydraulic model, and it says this thing needs to be here,
Right.
this
within
thing
so
needs to
long.
be here.
Right.
And so geographically, it kind of needs to stay,
Close.
I'm going to say, quarter mile, half mile, east-west along that road somewhere.
So it's a gravity-fed system. that
No,
goes
no,
to-
sir.
So there's a pumping,
That entire, well, with the exception of about the part on Michigan Road over there between 421 and down there about wind supply, or some of that's gravity. The rest of the system is pressurized. And so there's a Guyman Hill station, there's a Old 62 by the golf course. They all feed to this station.
and they all go to the Madison sewer system.
It all
this plant.
comes down over the hill from Telegraph Hill down by the park.
How about noise? There must be a pretty good-sized electric motor to drive the pump.
It's submerged. The sewer water cools those pumps, so they're always submerged underwater, and noise is not an issue. If there's noise, there's a bearing out.
Yeah. You got
Something's
problem.
going wrong.
Yeah.
It'll have an alarm system. If we got enough funding, we'd like to put a supervisory control system to it, where if we have a high level, that it'll call us, that somebody gets called. Currently, we just have to go check on it to keep an eye on it, or
I know the one out here, you see on going to Kent, there's a red light. Every night I go by and that red light's on, that's telling, I guess something's wrong.
Right.
Somewhere, and that's the Madison system now.
high level, yes.
Yeah.
So this lift station, is it gonna serve the school, the church, the homes on Pleasant Ridge as well, or?
They're on down the line. They're farther past this station. They pump into the same line that this station pushes the sewage down.
Okay.
So it's you got this, if you can imagine a human skeleton as a sewer main running down Telegraph Hill, Rikers Ridge, Cross Road, Old 62, and then your arms and legs start feeding into it, which is the residential pump station, the school, the church. The school's got its own pump station. And it just pushes the sewage on down the way.
I mean, just out of curiosity, how many customers are on this system?
A little over 400.
400. 45.
I assume you're regulated by Indiana Department of Environmental Management, the EPA,
Correct.
and do they have penalties for odor? If you give out too much odor, does IDEM have penalties that can be imposed? Is that part of what they do?
Well, there's clean air standards, so I don't know
I
how,
think IDM is more focused on water.
I don't know about the air quality complaints, but definitely spillage or leakage of sewer.
Yeah, IDM's more concerned with wastewater contamination.
Well, board members, any other questions or comments?
So what could happen, say this doesn't go through and you can't find another property, what could happen to the old system then? Or to the people there?
We would have to spend more money and try and put another station in the road right away where that one's at. And keep the sewage running, bypass, pump around temporarily some way.
And those costs would be passed on to the 485 customers probably.
Yes, yeah.
So if you didn't get this, they'd be paying more than they would be paying for your project.
Correct.
And you'd use the same system if you had to rebuild where it is now, the odor control and all that, or would you?
I don't think so, because we don't have enough room.
Yeah, right.
You just,
So you'd be better off by building a new one then?
there's, that was a dilemma, a couple of the engineers said, well, why can't we just go here? And I said, well, you're not the guy building it. You can draw it and design it, but we got a postage stamp we're trying to put a big house on, or, big structure.
So really, the new system is trying to make it better for the people that live around there with odor control.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even, we're gonna put a security light back there. The adjoining property owner asked that it be switched and not just on a dusted on eye, so it's off. It's not lighting up the backyard unless somebody has to go to the station, flip the switch on.
Okay.
We're trying to be as friendly to the community as possible. It just, there's a sewer system, there's, the people's sewer has to go somewhere, and we happen to seem to have the task to try and fix it.
Well, you've sure given a good presentation, in my view.
I agree.
Board members, any other questions, comments? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this proposal? You can have a seat, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all.
If you give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Jeff Fagan. I live at 2368 East Cross Road here in Madison. I've had a lift station in my front yard since I came home from work one day in 1997. Nobody said a word, nobody asked, no nothing. So I have this lift station, and it has stunk from day one. When you talk about the hydrogen sulfide and the rotten egg smell, that hydrogen sulfide is telling you something. I'm going to give you a little background, and I'm going to move on. I was site supervisor for the world's largest methylsilicon plant in the world. I was incident commander for that plant also. As incident commander, I was responsible for spills, releases, fires, disasters, anything that would have happened. After I left Dow Chemical, Dow Corning, after I left there, I was state director for a military training facility pretty close to here. And in that facility, I had two of these systems, just like they have here. Over the years, I've asked and asked and asked for someone to do something to help me out to get rid of this smell. The hydrogen sulfide, like I say, with the rotten egg smell, is telling you to get away. If you go to the ocean, you type in hydrogen sulfide, 10 parts per million is allowable in an 8-hour period. I get that getting my mail. I get that going out to lunch. I get that stopping and somebody pulls in behind me, stop and talk. IDLH is immediate danger to life and health. 100 parts is what that is for hydrogen sulfide. It messes up your olfactory senses, which is your taste and your smell and all of this. I've asked for something to be done. Now we have an odor control you're going to put in. Right now, if you go to look at that station, there's a 3-inch piece of conduit. It comes up, goes over, it goes into their control box. In that line is an 8-inch by 8-inch metal box. Hydrogen sulfide is corrosive when it gets in contact with oxygen. H2SO4. You got acid. That box is totally gone. So all that smell is now coming up through that conduit and it's bending out to the ground. Hydrogen sulfide is also heavier than air, so it just floats on the ground. So every time I get the mail, here it is. I'm walking in a cloud. And all you have to do is take some plumber's putty and put in that conduit, and that'll be isolated, and we'll get rid of a lot of the smell. That needs done immediately, if you will, please. When I do call, I get like it's always Mr. Fagan again, or he's griping about something else again. If you go over 28 years, I have had to time when to get my mail, when to exit my driveway so I don't get caught in that smell. And if you take 28 years, and the number of times I've done that, it's probably well over 1,000 that I've left my mail in the mailbox because I can't stand to get out. And I will not allow, and would not my kids when he's home, to get out and get that mail. Don't want them smelling that. If they can get that out of my driveway, hallelujah, get that thing out of here. If they can go put an odor control on it, get it out of here. I've had enough of it. I cannot take any more.
So you're in favor of this?
I am telling you I'm telling you what I've experienced in the past. You asked a question about EPA and regulations and stuff. As of June 22nd, they started regulating hydrogen sulfide. These people already know that because they're in the sewer business. It's regulated now. Hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen chloride, furans, fluorides are all regulated now. So if you get spilling too much through the air, yeah, EPA is coming. IDM, yeah, I've had them up there three times looking at that mess. I went one time, not long ago, where it ran over for 3 days. That's before Midwestern came in. Midwestern's done a good job. Are you Midwestern?
I'm CDHM contractor.
They've done a good job. They've done some improvements to it. It needs a whole lot more. They're working with what they have. The previous 20-some years, no. It was just let out to dry.
Well, sounds like they're addressing that with a new facility.
I believe they're addressing that. As far as raising money, I paid $25,000 for a sewer bill since I lived there 27 years. Up to this point, $25,000. Got 480 customers. I don't think we need to raise rates, but I don't do the books. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, that's all I got to say, so.
Thank you.
I'd like to see it going.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak for or against this application? Board members, one last chance.
Well, I will say that I'm a trustee at Rikers Ridge Baptist Church, and I'm currently remodeling 2 of the bathrooms in the basement. And the gas coming up out of the sewer pipes, it's real. It's not good.
I've had a little experience myself with that. It's pretty awful, but it sounds like, judging from the testimony, it sounds like these issues are all being addressed. Well, we will declare the comment time closed and move on to our variance from developmental standards. And the issue, of course, is there's, being in RA, they're supposed to have a 1 acre lot, but they only have ½ acre. So we will go through our 3 criteria. Is this injurious to the public health, safety, morals? Mr. Ferris?
No, in fact, I think if they don't do something, it will be injurious.
Mrs. Burkhart?
I agree with that.
Mr. Eaglin?
I agree with the members.
They're updating a very outdated system. I think that one's met. Number 2, this is use and value of adjacent areas not be affected substantially adversely. Mr. Ferris?
Well, I think with the technology that they're going to implement with this new design and have a focus on odor control, there's all kinds of new technologies out there right now. I deal with it in my line of work. And so, I think the impact on adjoining properties is probably not even going to be noticeable at all.
Mrs. Burkhart?
Yeah, I see no problem in that area.
Mr. Eaglin?
I agree.
And given the fact they're landscaping it and they're using modern odor control, and there was no testimony to the effect that anything would be harmed. I think that one's met. Number 3, strict application results in practical difficulties in the use of the property. What are they, Mr. Ferris?
Well, the requirement to have, a larger lot is the big issue, and the requirements that they have, because a lift station is not something that everybody wants in their front yard, right?
No.
So, to me, the location of this is a great fit. They've got an opportunity with a landowner that's willing to sell, and I think they need to seize the moment.
Mrs. Burkhart?
I agree with that comment.
Mr. Eaglin?
I agree. I just gonna, there again, improve the area up there.
The practical difficulty, in my view, is that engineering requires that this thing be in the, fairly close to this area. The second practical difficulty is they could only acquire a half acre for whatever reason. They couldn't acquire 1 acre. The other practical difficulty is that upgrading the sewer with residential growth out there means that they have to have a facility that can reliably handle sewage. And they're subject, of course, to EPA rules and various regulations. So I think there's a whole bunch of practical difficulties that require them to sit on this half acre, and that's all they can do. So I think that one is really met.
Did you want to say something else?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Well, we've had, go ahead, you can say something.
The half acre is all that the Triple D properties would sell. That's all he wanted to, he's willing to cooperate. He understands if the sewer system isn't maintained and brought up to standards to handle more capacity, that the rest of his property is going to be hayfield or weeds or whatever forever.
Yeah.
So it's needed, but he said, how much can you get by with? What's the smallest space that you can do what you need to do?
Yeah.
So that's how we
And I
arrived.
think we understand that.
Okay,
Yeah.
it wasn't that we tried to buy an acre, we would have bought more, but
Yeah.
that's all he wanted to part with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we've had gone through our findings of fact. I move that we approve BZVD-25-7.
Second.
Can we have a roll call?
Scott Baldwin?
Yes.
Carl Eaglin?
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart?
Yes.
Rick Ferris?
Yes.
I will need your certified receipts and green cards. You can bring those.
We sent out 7, but only got 5 back.
Just bring me whatever you got, yeah.
And we have, I believe, one more item on the agenda. Royer Corporation, 805 East Street, requesting a variance of developmental standards for location of an addition to the factory. So if we have somebody from Royer, yes, come up, give your name and address and explain all the details of this and what the hardship is.
Yeah, my name's Zach Zarin. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Royer. My address is 1548 East State Road 250. That's in Madison. We are looking at adding a 9,000 square foot warehouse. Currently, we added and I apologize, I'm getting over cold here, so I don't have much of a voice left. We added a roughly 7,000 square foot warehouse in 2019. That is going to be converted mostly to manufacturing. The new warehouse will be all warehouse. So it's going to be 9,000 square foot.
And how close are you going to be to the north
The
lot line?
north property will be 15 feet. We did work out a deal with him. Currently, he's not going to have any parking for his tenants. I believe it's a triplex. I'm not 100% sure there, but we own a small parcel on the other side of the alley. that we're going to be graveling for him for his tenants to park.
So you've worked out a deal with the neighbor who is most affected by the whole thing?
Yeah, I can't remember his last name. His name is Brian. His first name is Brian. He's actually got it for sale right now, but we went ahead and worked out a deal with his tenant, or with him for his tenant parking. Yes.
Good.
I apologize.
And that was the only concern he had was with the parking.
Yeah, currently, so where the 15-foot that we're going to be is gut butts right up to his garage doors. So he will have access to get out. We left 15 foot so he'd have swing to get his vehicles out of there. He won't be able to get a large pickup truck in there, but he's just got 2 cars in there. He wanted to make sure he could get out. But yes, it's a 15 foot up to him. Yes.
And this is because your production level has increased and you need the factory space, the other.
Yeah, so
warehouse.
currently we have 2 shipping docks. Thank you for that. We will be adding 2 additional shipping docks on this with the influx and growth that we've experienced over the past 5 years. We've already outgrown the 2 shipping docks that we currently added.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
How long has Royer been in the neighborhood? It's been quite a while.
I believe it started in 1972. I believe they moved over there from behind the old hospital in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I believe that's around the
Yeah,
time
it
frame.
was a shoe factory before.
Was a shoe factory before, yes, sir.
Yeah, I used to play.
So we also, there was a gravel lot on the other side of the alley as well that we own. We went ahead and resurfaced that and striped that, so we'll be moving the majority of our employee parking over there, as this warehouse will take the majority of our parking lot currently.
And that was the lot that was obtained back from the city that was
Yes,
going
sir.
to be a park?
We deeded it to the city for a park, and after that fell through,
Yes.
we bought that back, or it was
Yeah.
deeded back to us, yes.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
I do want to say, with this, we know there's been a lot of runoff issues over the past years. We're redoing a lot of these storm drains, really trying to keep minimal impact on all of our neighbors. I believe that we've got a pretty good plan in place for that with the engineering that we've gone through.
Yeah, everything behaved this last time, with Crooked Creek and all that, so
Very
improvements
pleased
have been made, yes.
Very pleased with that, yes,
Very
absolutely.
good, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this proposed
Thank you.
use? Yes, come on up. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Tony Steinhardt, 221 West First Street, Deputy Mayor and Director of Economic Development and Redevelopment for the city. I just want to show our support and continue to commend Royer for their growth. We're lucky to have an industry like that here in the Madison community, and not only in the Madison community, but in our downtown community, and the ability to continue to support that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Give your name and address for the record, please.
Gail Cunningham, 426 Moody Park Lane. My question is the parking. Past 2 days, I can't hardly get out of we live on Moody Park, but our carport comes out on Saddle Tree. There are people parking sideways parallel to the building. Is there a way to stop that? They're parking there for 8 hours, and I can't hardly get out of the carport. And I admit I'm a woman driver. I'm not that good, and I'm trying to watch both sides because people don't stop.
I think he said that they were going to redo the parking area. Will that take care of that
Well,
situation?
they have already. They've already redone they've paved that lot.
Mhm.
They're still parking parallel to the building.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's a reason why they're still parking there, or if it's the construction crew.
Come
It
on
could be
up
the
if you want
construction
to,
crew.
sir, and address her issue.
First off, I do want to apologize for that. In the process, the parking lot was paved. It just got restriped Saturday. We sent out a company-wide announcement. Over the past week or so, as you've seen, we've been struggling to find parking while all this was going on. So we have that all worked out now. Royer actually does own a property 2 houses behind our facility. We're going to be having our whole maintenance team, which is what you've kind of been dealing with. They're actually parking back there. That we put that into place today. I walked it and I did see how your white car. Yeah, so I do apologize for that. We have a plan in place. We won't be there anymore going forward. Yeah.
So it was just lately you were having parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was,
So-
past just the past
Okay.
3 days. I thought it might, they're the construction crew.
Right.
Because they're working in the parking lot, so I thought maybe it was them and they just didn't know, but I mean, directly behind, and there was no way,
Right,
it was Friday, there was no way I could get out.
right, yeah,
I didn't know where to go to ask,
Right.
who's this, can you move it?
yeah. But you get what he's saying there with,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I do want to, it's kind of the warehouse that was added in 2019, it has a little bit of a step back. We do plan on parking our box truck there, but it's going to be pulled farther up from your carport.
As long as I can get that.
Absolutely.
Boat,
Okay.
be able to get out.
Yeah, it's a nice boat, by the way, love that boat. But we do plan on parking there for the first time tomorrow with that box truck, and I'd be happy to come over with you guys to make sure that's fine. Yeah, so, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Give name and address again.
Jim Cunningham, 426 Moody Park Lane. Let's see, where do I want to start? Just to kind of clear the record from the past, back in the day when I was here, when they passed the a rule to allow the first expansion of Royers, the 7,000-foot expansion. And I was here on other business, but when I sat through the process, and it was and they sent me a note asking my position on the variance. And when I got up here then, I mentioned things like, well, it's not my property. I didn't pay for it, they did. I don't pay property taxes on it, they do. And I've got no right, real or imagined, to tell another man what to do on or off on his property. That was a position I took. Well, since then, I'm in a big legal battle with Madison over what to do with my property that my dad and I built with our own two hands over 2 generations since 1970. And the way I see it, this is how I get repaid for my leniency. And also, there's another property owner, he was a landlord, he since decided he had enough of this town and went off to Louisville. And he owned the apartment complex diagonally across the parking lot in that 2-story apartment house. And granted, I'm sure his tenants generated some issues. I have no doubt of that. But we used to talk, and he was like, he's tried to get certain things done and through and couldn't do it because of the historical issues and whatnot and zoning. Okay? Well, he came up to me and he says, how in the heck did Royers get a variance or permit to build this big monstrosity right next to here? Because of the historical area and everything else. And I said, I was down there that night conducting other business when I watched them vote to suspend the rules and fast track it on the way through. And at any rate, that's what I told him. And then I guess one thing led to another, and he decided to cash in his chips and leave town. And that's a little bit on the history of the thing. But also, when I researched the floods, just recently I found that the floodplain map is based on the 1913 flood in Indiana. Well, supposedly from what I read, the 1913 flood is the worst flood that's happened in the state. And everybody talks about the 37 flood being so bad. Well, I don't quite understand it, at least right here, because when I go across the street or bridge of Milton and look on that building over there where they got all the floodplain, all the different floods marked, the 37's at the highest and the 1913 flood's down below it. So I don't
That
exactly.
was because the 13 flood wiped out Indianapolis.
Okay, so they're talking about statewide as opposed to just locally. Well, I guess locally the 37 flood was,
That was the big one for here.
that was the big one. Well, I'm wondering, that map is supposed to be the 1% map, or the every 100 years. Well, that was in 1913. Well, it's been over 100 years, and we haven't had one near that bad. So I'm wondering if that map needs corrected, or we need to be removed from it. And
That one you'd have to take up with
DNR.
Yes.
But another thing is, when I was looking over there at the development, I don't remember seeing a building permit or anything around. And in addition, the construction crew that looked like they were redoing the drainage and stuff like that in parking lot, unless I stand corrected just upon casual observation, It looked to me like that drainage was coming out into Saddle Tree Lane, and it comes out just a few feet from the old, I guess, antiquated culvert or whatever it is that runs behind Moody Park and everything. And I was wondering, that's going to put that much more stress on that system. Now, we had a real flood this time. It wasn't the Madison cause flood like you had in 15 and 21. And I'll clarify that in a minute. A real flood is like what we just had. It's with a river, too much rain, whatever, the river comes up. Water seeks its own level. So what happens then is if it comes up high enough, it'll backfeed under water pressure back up the creeks. And if it goes far enough, the creeks will flood up and overflow their banks. So then what you have then is the river is flooding the front of the town or downtown, down there, and the creeks which run in back of us will flood that area and basically, assuming it don't go the rest of the way, flood everything except like Main Street or something like that, which is on a high point that runs down through here. Okay? So when I checked the flood the last time, the water in my culvert back there, as bad as this flood got, I had about 2 or 3 inches of water in it. About like that, nothing. Now, why is that? It's because of some of the improvements that's been made recently. And it's because that I'm assuming from what I could tell, because when the rain started coming down, in my position, I was getting a little bit nervous. So I went down to bottom of Hanging Rock Hill and watched that trailer park, the area of the property at least, get partially flooded. And Crooked Creek, as far as up down the cemetery, looked like it was up, but it was still good. But back when you get back around the Legion and so forth, where you cross down over the old, I guess, Pearl packing area, it was back to what it looked like almost normal.
Well, something's working.
So something's working. But from what I researched before, if a local unit of government allows overdevelopment in an area, and it floods because of the overdevelopment, they're liable. If they don't engineer the drainage properly on what's already developed or will be developed, they're liable. If they don't maintain the drainage properly, like keeping Crooked Creek cleaned out and maybe what comes down is Dugan Hollow, they're liable for that. And that happened not once or twice, or once but twice in 15 and 16. That was the water got up down there before, yes, but never enough to get into everything like it did in 15 and 21.
Well, this flood got up to about a little over 458 feet and apparently did not flood around your location over there.
Correct, because we're far enough back and above.
So you're at and I have seen the FEMA flood map, and that part is neither in the floodplain or the floodway. So.
But right now,
say something, Nicole?
Yeah, I just wanted to address a couple of the comments that Mr. Cunningham has made. All of Royer's expansions, both current and present, have gone through the proper processes. No suspension to any rules has occurred on these. I think what he's referring to is historic board approvals. They run their meetings a little bit differently, so it can get kind of confusing on what they require, because they only require signs on the property. As far as a building permit goes, they're waiting for this meeting to get their building permit issued. So they have not started construction, at least on the addition. They do have a current building permit for an interior remodel. They just received that last week. And then as far as the work on the parking lot goes, we are in the process of looking at drainage all across the city, our infrastructure on that. We've obtained a contract with Commonwealth Engineers to look at that after the 2021 flood. So that is something that we are looking at, but they don't need any permits to run their water off of their parking lot into our system.
Okay. Well, I just hope that your system, which I do not own, by the way, my property goes to it, but does not include it, but it's literally adjoining property, and I sincerely hope that its capacity is sufficient. Now, that has to be kept cleaned out too. And you got a lot of times rogue vegetation growing up on the other side of it. That often needs to be cleaned out every once in a while. And every now and then, myself or my tenants will sometimes do that.
Well, I appreciate your comments, sir, but this board is considering actually allowing a variance from how far from the property line their addition has to be. And your comments, while they are very germane, that's the kind of stuff you go to city council, because they're the ones that have to do stuff about that. This board has a rather limited jurisdiction, and tonight's issue is a lot line.
Okay.
Because you brought up that they have that big building there. Well, that area has been a factory for years and years, predating many. Our first zoning ordinance I know of was 1967, I think. And that factory was probably there before then.
It was, sir.
And it's zoned M1 light industry, which they certainly are. So they have every legal right to, maintain, run, and expand their business.
But
and it sounds like from your testimony that the ditches and drainways in your area over there survived this late, as you put it very accurately, it was a real flood.
As opposed to the backwater floods that happened
was almost
before.
up to the 1997 level.
I think he said it was a foot and a half below.
From the testimony of the gentleman from Royer and yours, I think issues are pretty well met. But I'd recommend you go to city council and make yourself heard.
Okay.
That's what city council's for.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak for or against? Any other questions, board members?
No.
Well, then, we will declare the time of public comment and board comment closed. And we will go on to our variance of developmental standards, finding of fact. And just to review, this is a request for a 15-foot request to build within 15 feet of the lot line, which in M1, I think is what, 45 feet or 50?
35.
35 feet. So we will just go through each one in turn. Number one, injurious to the public health, safety, etc. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't think it'll be injurious.
Mrs. Burkhart.
No, I see no problem with that.
Mr. Eaglin.
I agree.
I see no injury to the public health. Testimony of gentleman from Royer indicates that the neighbors' concerns about parking and access to their garage have been worked out in an agreement. So I think that one's met. Number two, adverse effects on adjacent properties. Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't think so. I think the applicant is probably very sensitive to being a good neighbor, and I think they're trying to do everything they can to minimize any impact on their neighbors.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree with that comment.
Mr. Eaglin.
I agree. He's taking care of all the issues very well.
Once again, we've heard no assessor or realtor say that there's any adverse effect. Nobody has testified. I think that one's met. Number three, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance results in practical difficulties in the use of property. What are they, Mr. Ferris?
Well, I think the space requirements to run their business and be able to grow is the practical difficulty being located where it's at.
Mrs. Burkhart.
I agree, they wouldn't be allowed to expand as needed.
Mr. Eaglin.
Yes, I mean, they need the expansion because luckily their business is doing well and it's good for the neighborhood, good for Madison. So So I think we need to overlook this little issue.
In my view, the practical difficulty is that factory predates zoning ordinances. It's growing, it needs places to grow, but its location, from an historic viewpoint, constrains it. So I think that the 35-foot requirement for lot line, given where that factory is and its history, I think that makes a very real practical difficulty, and I think that that one's met. We've gone through our findings of fact and take a motion. I move we approve variance for number BZVD-25-8.
Second.
I think we have a roll call.
Scott Baldwin.
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart.
Yes.
Carl Eaglin.
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
We had a couple of issues left over from last month's, a couple of things that were tabled. I asked staff to comment on those.
Yes, we resent out a letter for renewal reminder to the one on Park Avenue. I was able to find a different address for that LLC. I have not heard back from them, so I'm assuming that they no longer operate the Airbnb there. And then the other two, Mulberry Street, as well as, remind me, Scott, the other one. Vaughn Drive, those have both sold.
Yeah, 502 East Bond Drive, that one sold, so that obviously is a conditional use has expired.
Yes.
And 1017 Park Avenue, this was the second time that they've been contacted.
Yes, yeah, the first letter was returned undeliverable.
And then you attempted the second time.
Correct.
So after the third time, they have to reapply, so. Just to be utterly fair, move we instruct staff to contact the parties that own 1017 Park Avenue and attempt to instruct them that their conditional use is expired, and if they do not, if they pay the renewal fee by the next regular meeting, it will be renewed, and if they do not, it will be terminated. That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Was there anything else I've forgotten? And motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned.
85.
You didn't come here, did you?
No.
Thank you for the good work.
How old are your kids?